Velocity of money is the measure of the number of times that the average unit of currency is being used to purchase goods and services within a given period of time.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
As Yoda would say it, cruising through the principles of prosperity we are. Dustin Harris, I am, and I'm your host. We are into principle number 14, and principle number 14, 15, and 16 are super important. We're getting to the end, folks. We are getting there. I want to pause here and remind you that we're sponsored by a great company named Now Software. As I am recording this, it is the third day of the new month. On the first day of every new month, I get a wonderful little email from Now that says, hey, here's how you did last month, and here's how that month compared to the month previous. That's one of the cool features about Now Software. You can find out more by going to anow.com. It's anow.com. All right, folks, today's principle could last very easily much longer than the 10-minute time frame that I have allowed myself. By the way, I've been able to stick to that. Now, once you put the music in, there might be a few over the last several weeks that might have creeped up over the 10-minute mark, but my language, my thoughts, my vocabulary, my script, if you will, has stayed under 10 minutes, and that's my goal today. This one's a little bit more challenging because I think most of these principles make sense on the surface just by stating the principle. It makes sense. The principle of savings, right? What you focus on becomes better. 80% of success comes from 20% of effort. Technology's purpose is to serve its master. These principles are easy to understand just by the title, but I think I need to spend a little bit of time today talking about the definition of this particular principle. Again, we're on to principle number 14, and the principle is simply this. The velocity of money is exponential. The velocity of money is exponential. Now, Dustin, what are you talking about, the velocity of money? Does that mean how fast you can throw it if you wad it up in a ball? If you put it in a paper airplane, how quick it will fly through the air? Of course not. That's not what we're talking about. Velocity of money, folks, look it up. The velocity of money is a phenomenon, an economic phenomenon that basically says that money can be used over and over and over again. So on a very general principle, let's say, and by the way, I understand we live in a digital age, right? It's actually kind of rare to have currency in your wallet or cash in your wallet, if you will. But think about it this way. If a dollar bill gets printed, how many times does it exchange hands before it is worn out? I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there is an answer if you Google it. There is a certain time period that a dollar bill finally gets worn out, right? But that's not what we're talking about today. That is not the velocity of money. That's simply how, now it's related. It's related to the velocity of money. So for example, if you take that dollar and you buy a cup of coffee and you pay that, let's say the cup of coffee costs you 75 cents and you give a 25-cent tip, right? You lay that on the counter and you leave. Well, the waitress or the waiter picks up that dollar bill and puts it in the cash register, which is then deposited in the bank, which might be loaned out to someone else who might use it to buy, partially to buy an item of clothes at Walmart, which will then go in the drawer, which will get deposited, which will get recirculated, right? We're talking about the circulation of money, but it's certainly related to the velocity of money. The velocity of money is simply this. Velocity of money is the measure of the number of times that the average unit of currency is being used to purchase goods and services within a given period of time. In other words, how often is that money being used? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be physical money. A lot of times it's your debit card, it's your credit card, it's other digital forms of transfer or purchase. But the velocity of money is how quickly that money exchanges hands. Simply put, if you take a $100 bill and spend it, you're going to have a much greater velocity of money than taking a $100 bill and putting it under your mattress. A $100 bill under your mattress is certainly saving, if you will. You're saving that for a rainy day, but it is giving you no velocity of money. Velocity of money is exponential. I'm going to talk about the second part of that principle when we come back from the break. What does it mean that the velocity of money is exponential? Because this financial lesson is critical if you're going to be successful. Now, speaking of being successful, Now Software will help you to achieve that success. Now Software is out there helping appraisers to do more with less. It's technology, folks, that allows you to keep track of what's going on in your office. Now Software, anow.com. Right now you can save 30% for the first 3 months on ANow software by using the coupon code podcast30. Welcome back to the program. We are talking about the velocity of money. We've explained before the break a little bit about what the velocity of money is. It's simply the measure of how often currency exchanges hands. And it basically comes down to this, folks. When currency exchanges hands quickly, the economy is typically growing. And thus, when your money exchanges hands quickly, typically your success is growing. Okay, let me give you an example. It's an example that I've used several times over the last couple of weeks as we've talked about the principles of prosperity, but it's what's on my mind right now, and I think it's a good example, right? From the very beginning, remember, one of the principles of success, and it's one of the early principles of success, in fact, it's number one, is to pay yourself first. Remember, I got that principle from the richest man in Babylon. It's to put 10% aside. Now, you can put 10% aside all day long and put it in a bank account or put it somewhere else where it just is kind of sitting there and probably not even keeping up with the law of inflation, right? The 14th principle of prosperity is velocity of money is exponential. What does that mean, folks? When you can allow your money to work for you, by the way, this is very, very, very closely related to another principle that we talked about, right? Remember, number one is to pay yourself first. Money follows value. Money is only a tool, okay? There's so many things that work together for these types of things to work properly, okay? And number 14 is velocity of money is exponential. What does that mean? Well, if I'm putting away 10% for several years and I earn, $100,000 and put that in a savings account, it's one thing to have it sit there. It's a whole other thing to say, you know what, Dustin, that's not really doing much for me. I want that money to be working for me. So therefore, I'm going to increase the velocity of money by spending the money in an investment that I think is going to bring me a better return. In the case of my wife and I, lately, we've been investing in Airbnbs, in short-term rentals, where we purchase through a mortgage. Yes, we're taking advantage of that free money out there, the low interest rates, and we're purchasing Airbnbs, and then we're turning around and we are renting them out on a short-term basis, which increases the cap rate much, much further than a long-term rental would do. This is an example of the velocity of money. In other words, utilizing that money for good. And then we take that money that was invested and that comes back to us. So let's say that our mortgage is $2,500 a month, but we earn $5,500 a month in short-term rental fees. Well, now we have $3,000 in our pocket that we're going to turn around and we're going to reinvest in something else. And this is all cyclical. Right? This is the velocity of money. Again, principle number 14, velocity of money is exponential. As you invest and get returns, you reinvest and get returns and reinvest and get returns. And this is how, in one way, how the velocity of money increases success. Speaking of increasing success, I hope that you will join us on the All-Star team. We're getting more and more people joining us every day. Have an opportunity for you to be able to be a part of a great group of appraisers who are helping each other to be better at what they do, helping each other to be successful. It's the All-Star team, and you can find us at the appraisercoach.com/memberships.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.